everybody, and welcome to our inaugural episode of the Leadership Lounge live with Lynz. The live part I just added, but you're live, you're here. So if you're coming to us from YouTube or from LinkedIn or from Instagram, I am so happy that you are here. And I built this show because if you know anything about me, you know I've had this podcast that I love called the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. And I get to tell amazing stories from really amazing people. But there's a lot more people that have incredible leadership stories. And I wanted to feature them on this live platform. So today I have my first guest, who also happens to be one of my very best friends. She has worked with the biggest names in the game, from the NBA to Microsoft, and now she's helping CEOs trade chaos for strategy. Please welcome to the show, Ricki Pasinelli, the growth whisperer for companies ready to stop winging it and start winning it. Ricki, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be number one.
I'm so happy you're here. And this is such a treat to kick this off. So you know how the podcast goes, but for those who have never listened to the podcast, and there are many of you out there, and I highly recommend you check it out, please start us off by telling us a little bit of your story.
Well, thank you for asking. I just want to say first, congratulations. I think this is a brilliant idea. I think the people that you're going to get to feature and that are coming up in the next few podcasts are just killer. And how much fun. Hi, Jim Perona. And how much fun to get to talk to a whole slew of different people and letting them share their stories. So thank you.
Oh, it is absolutely my pleasure. This is so much fun.
It's so much fun. And thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So what's my story?
Yes.
Well, it's a long one. I have gone from being a speech comm teacher, interpersonal communications teacher, intercultural communications teacher, to a health and safety training manager that I knew nothing about. And my job was to increase compliance, to a brand strategist, again, a position I knew nothing about, which really was the game changer for my career, to client service, account management, ultimately to head of growth for a company, and then to my very own consultancy.
Yes.
So it has been nothing short of exciting. I always say my brand essence is blind enthusiasm. It doesn't mean that I make stupid decisions, but it does mean that I learn a lot along the way. I've got 2 grown kids. I've been married for 27 years. I love travel, tequila, and vintage luck shopping. I mean, those are basically my go-tos. And I really believe in trust, respect, and shared purpose. And those are the makings of a true and solid relationship, whether it's professional, personal, romantic, platonic, with your kids, whatever it is. Does that answer your question?
I love all of those things. That was a fabulous, fabulous intro for the people that don't know you, which I can't believe there are any, but there are many. So
there are some,
especially on the other platforms. So shout out to everybody who is here. Thank you for chiming in with your comments. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in. But this is going to be a fun, lively conversation. Okay, so we got your story. So you know this is the Leadership Lounge. So we're going to be talking all things leadership. So what would you say is your leadership superpower? What are you really good at?
Okay, well, let me put on my cape first. So let's stop there, or let's start there. I think my leadership power or superpower is really about making people feel seen and heard. Right. In my personal life, I'm all about building relationships, making connections. I have a phenomenal network that I'm extremely proud of that I've built over the 3 decades of my career. But really, I think at the very fundamental level of that network and those people, and why I think I'm such a good leader, you can ask people that have worked for me over the years what they think, but it's really about making people feel seen.
Yes,
for sure.
I love that. And you do that. You have a beautiful knack for making people feel safe and making them feel welcomed. And because of that, I think people divulge things to you that they might not normally. And that is absolutely
Mhm.
a superpower. So you can't have a superpower without also having kryptonite. So what is the leadership thing that you hate or that you don't do well? Because, none of us are perfect. We're all flawed.
Wait, what?
I know. It's
Okay,
hard to believe. We have
fine.
a couple.
Yeah. So I have a few actually. My biggest one, and I've talked about this in other interviews before, but I really, really want to be liked. Like, I just want to be liked. And it has screwed me in the past, right? It has definitely made me not strong enough, not confrontational enough, not saying my truth. So that is probably my biggest piece of kryptonite. I mean, this year, my intention for the year was truth. So it has been revolutionary for me. And then there's a few other ones, like I suck at late night work. Like, don't ask me to proofread or copy edit anything
Oh,
after 9 p.m.
oh God, no.
I used to be so great.
No, I can't do that. I'm at about 3 o'clock on. I'm
Yeah,
starting to get mushy, and
right.
I'm not as clear. I'm much stronger in the morning. So
Yeah, I'm
I
a
get that.
5 a.m., write it up, edit it, post it, do whatever I need to do with it.
Mhm.
But because I'm a strategist,
Yes.
that's when my most thoughtful and creative prose comes out. And if I
Yeah.
try to do it at night, I'm always sorry.
So
So I think that's where I sit.
I like that. So you get to work with a ton of different leaders from like incredible brands that everyone
Mhm.
would know. Um, Talk about who your clients are and how you help them so people know why they're listening to this expert that I've brought on stage.
Yes, expert indeed. So my background is all strategic brand agency work. So I got to work with General Mills, Airbus, Microsoft, Golden State Warriors, the Seattle Kraken, the NBA, the NFL. I mean, you name it, I have probably touched it in some capacity.
Mhm.
All of that to say, I blew up that career in 2019, and I blew it up for a variety of reasons, but mostly because I didn't see the path forward for me.
Yeah.
And if I didn't mention that in my superpower question or answer, I can see the path forward very clearly, not only for myself, but also for others.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm intuitive, but
I
once I
would
get
say
the,
you're intuitive. Let's
maybe
not
I
sell
am.
that short. You totally are.
Okay. Maybe I am. Woo woo. So I always say my hashtag is kind of woo.
We welcome the
Anyway,
woo. This is
kind of woo.
a safe woo place.
Yes. So now, because I get to pick the clients who I work with, I get to impact their companies. I get to work with the leaders and founders in C-suite. I'm working in 15 to $50 million size companies instead of those big Fortune 500, Fortune
Yes.
1000 companies, because to me, what matters is making impact. And I can do that by myself or with my team for that size company without having to go through procurement and the politics and the behemoth of these large ships.
Mhm.
I actually get to see change happen much faster and in a much more, I mean, I know this is a buzzword, in a much more authentic way
Mhm.
that, if I'm being really honest, is what fuels my soul.
Well,
And
you have a really special knack of um, not just seeing the path forward for yourself and seeing it for others, but you're able to pull out people's strengths very quickly, and that makes you an incredibly strategic tool in an arsenal for a company. So, what you have an ability to scope across a leadership team and identify character traits that are either being underutilized or we're leaning too heavily on. So I love watching you in action that way.
thank you for saying that. You know, it's funny. So my clients stay with me for a really long time. Did I mention I'm a relationship builder? And one of my very first clients, when I decided to start my own consultancy, hired me to do a discovery and a growth workshop for them. So I flew out to meet with them, And I went and I usually, my thing is like, I will take my clients to dinner the night before we dive into any work, because you get so much richness,
100%.
right? Outside of the workplace, over a glass of wine, or in my case, tequila on the rocks with a wedge of orange. Who's counting? And I remember the CEO of the company looking at me and saying, "What do you think you're going to find?" And I said, "Well, typically I won't, I'm prone to hyperbole, but I will share with you what I think." And so I shared it with him and I said, "But right, tomorrow and the next day are all about doing leadership interviews. Then we're going to do the growth workshop. And then I'm going to give you a set of findings." By the end of the interviews on the first day, I knew I was 100% right at dinner that night. So thank you for saying that, because that is really important to me. And I think it's part and parcel of what differentiates me. I'm not going to tell you what you I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what I know is right.
Well, and there's a really important piece to that. And when you hire a growth strategist, you have to put your faith in them. You have to trust them, but you also have to trust that they're not just going to, brown nose you and tell you that everything is rosy and great, because there's clearly an issue. They're not growing as rapidly as they need to. And this is how you come in and you're able to really kind of hone in on what needs work. And sometimes that's the wrong people and the wrong jobs. It's,
more often than not.
Yeah. I mean, we can always blame sales, but we're not going to do that, because that's not usually the issue.
It isn't. And, it's funny that you bring that up from a leadership perspective. When I have these founders and leaders and C-suite folks coming to me with whatever they think their challenge is, at the end of the day, it's usually not where the real gaps exist. Right. And it almost always, to your point, starts with sales. Almost always.
And guys, I'm a former seller. I ran big sales teams. We're not blaming the salespeople. Like, let's not do that. There's so many more elements to this equation. Okay, so let's have a little more fun. What is a story about failure that turned out to be one of your greatest gifts?
Okay.
We're keeping it real in the leadership lounge.
I know. I love this leadership lounge.
Warts and all. And guys, this is my first time doing this. So thankfully the technology seems to be working well. So fingers crossed that it's going to continue, but
fingers crossed.
Keep going.
In all fairness, we spent about 15 minutes before this episode started adjusting my light, because I looked like death had warmed over and we couldn't figure out why. So
she was resembling Casper. It was not cute.
Nobody wants, and you know what? Nobody wants to see that.
No.
Okay. Story about failure. So I'm thinking about a recent one. So I've had many, because if you all recall, I said that my brand essence is blind enthusiasm. So I tend to leap quickly. I'm also game for just about anything, which makes me a great connector and a great networker, because you never know where opportunities are going to come from.
Right.
So I took a role at a company that I took about 6 months to negotiate. And I took the job because the title was badass, because I got to have executive in my title.
Yep.
And the money was killer. It was great. And I'd blown up my career in 2019. I wanted to move on. I jumped into the void, not a mistake and not a failure. I left my big career without a job. It was the best thing I ever did. So I took about 6 months to negotiate this role. I joined the company, and I knew in about 6 months that it wasn't a fit. And I was certain at a year, and it took me another year to negotiate my way out. So I spent 2 years, 24 months, almost to the day, in a role that quite frankly didn't fit my core values. So so what's the lesson? Like, what is the failure? The failure was it wasn't the place for me. That's okay. Those are all good people. It just wasn't a fit. My core values are building relationships, servant leadership, growth mindedness, being curious, and then my favorite one, which is fun with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Nowhere in there did I talk about money, title, my ego? And granted, I have an ego, let's be
We
clear.
all do.
But when I left that job in 2019, my big career, part of what I wanted to do was only pursue things that fill my soul, right? That job was so ego driven, the badge value, the clients that I talked about before,
Mhm.
you know, the people who I worked with, I was so afraid of what I was going to lose versus what I was going to gain. But this role didn't meet any of my needs in any capacity. And ironically, the year I took that job, my intention was breathe, because the year before it had been courage. And I just needed to take a chill pill, right? Courage is a big intention. I
Yeah.
blew up my career. I did a whole bunch of little courageous things and a
Yep.
lot of big courageous things. So I needed to breathe. It was such a mistake. But here's the thing I got out of it. One is, remember what you should know your core values. You should be very clear with them. You should know what the
Okay.
definition of them are for you and how to activate them. So that was the first learning. But the second learning was, and this is really the gift that I took forward, is this is what propelled me to start my own company, because I got to choose the type of work I took on, the types of clients I get to be in relationship with.
Yeah.
And that role had its benefits too, right? We had a president of the company who was incredibly transparent. I came from the agency world where everything's a secret. Margin's a secret, revenue's a secret, how you get paid is a secret. And then I went to a company that was completely transparent. So guess what that did for me? Taught me how to run my own company.
Right.
So I'm almost 4 years in, which I cannot believe those words are coming out of my mouth. And what that failure, right? Failure to map my future to my core values. What that did is it gave me freedom. It gave me breadth. It gave me depth. It allowed me to see the path, to do what I needed to do to make companies and leaders feel like they matter and teach them how to strategically, move their companies forward. Revolutionary. I'm not saying it wasn't painful, because it was. It was a rough time. And you know, I've told you a lot of the stories. We've been friends for a while now.
Oh, yeah.
But I do look at it as a gift. And I am grateful for it, even though it was really, really hard.
I think Iris had a great comment that said, you know, we need to find a new word for failure. It just sounds like development, expansion, and growth. And I think that that's true. And listen, this wouldn't be the Leadership Lounge if we didn't talk about failure, because failure is what gets you to your next level, your next chapter, your next scary, audacious goal. And failure, without it, like, you don't learn. You don't always learn when you're on top of the mountain. You learn from the struggle and the climb. And you know, I tell stories all the time, both mine and people that I get to interview, and friends and people I've worked with, to illustrate what good leadership looks and feels like. So, you know, the whole reason I built the podcast and the reason I'm building this is because when I poll a room of people, when I'm keynoting and I say, who here has had a terrible leader? 100% of the room raises their hand. Who here has had a great leader? It's a lot less.
Right.
And if you've never had a great leader, you just don't know what that looks and feels like. And to be inspired by a great leader is a phenomenal thing.
Phenomenal.
So,
phenomenal.
Who believed in you before you believed in you?
Oh, corniest answer on the planet. Mel and Arlene Silver. Otherwise known as my
we
dad.
love Mel and Arlene.
I know. Well, you know.
And Mel and Arlene are Ricki's parents, in case you're
Yes.
wondering. And we'll let you in on a little private joke that she and I have. So Ricki's maiden name is Silver. My maiden name is Goldstein. Together we are silver and gold. And if you see us commenting on each other's stuff that way, that's what that's about. So Mel and Arlene.
We do it often.
Yes, we do. All right. So Mel and Arlene.
Mel and Arlene, really, like, I think they understood that magic in how I make people feel seen. I remember once I had this Uncle Merle, shout out to Garth Sanders, my cousin. But my Uncle Merle said that And I think I must have been like 10 or 11. My hair was frizzy. I had freckles all over the place. It was a disaster. But when I talk to people, I always look them in the eye. Just one. No, I'm kidding. I always look them in the eyes. And Cousin Merle, Uncle Merle, Cousin Merle said to me, "You are wise beyond your years." He said, "And it is such a gift at your age." And I have never, ever forgotten this.
Yeah.
You directly look at people when they talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
You directly look at people, and I've never forgotten it. And it's really funny. I will tell you that when I'm telling stories or talking about something I'm doing, if people aren't looking me in the eyes, I get really distracted.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
I
you're
can't.
wondering where are they looking? What are
Why
they
aren't they
thinking
paying
about?
attention to me? So that's my, that's right. They believed in me for sure, 100%. They saw the power. But it was all these little, messages along the way, really from family, because we were so family focused and oriented when I was growing up.
And how about in the working world? Because I mean, you've done some big audacious things. I mean, you had to have some leaders along the way that really kind of saw something in you and said she needs more airtime, or she needs a bigger job, or what was that?
Right. So I think there's two, and they're directly related to my agency life. One is my friend John Rubino, who actually gave me the job, the very first agency job as a brand strategist. He was the final check of the leaders at that agency. And he said, "I don't care if she doesn't have experience. What she brings to the table is phenomenal, between her experience, her education, her personality, her willingness to dive in." And he really gave me the start of my career. I mean, honestly, like, that's where I took off. I couldn't be a health and safety training manager forever, unfortunately. Well, money's not in my core values. They were not paying me enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second one is still a friend, and I know you guys will all find this super shocking, but all these people are still my friends. Linda Halverson is who hired me at my second agency job.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever that woman saw in me, she made sure that I had the biggest stage, the biggest runway, the biggest audience. And she just kept fueling my fire so that I could grow in my career in all the right ways. She's the reason I got an executive coach. She was my mentor forever and ever. She opened up a world to me in agency life that I didn't even know existed, and essentially changed the trajectory of my growth. I would not be sitting here today running my own business with the community and the network that I have, sitting with you, had it not been for like that gift that she gave me, which showed me the path and what it means to be, what success looks like.
I love that.
And it's not just about ego. That delicate ego shell is BS, right? It's what feeds your heart, what feeds your soul, and what feeds
that, and I talk about this all the time, that it's not just the accolades that are important. It's how you lift others up. And that always looks good on you. So when you're a leader and you are responsible to your people, and you see that they've done something good, freaking tell them and tell everybody else.
Totally.
And if you are a CEO listening to this show, this is such an easy one. And Mark Peters, his episode goes live on Wednesday for the podcast. He's the CEO of Butterball Farms. He and I were just talking about this. And one of the things that leaders forget, which is just the easiest thing to do, when someone new joins your company, welcome them on LinkedIn. It's so easy. It takes like 5 seconds. And then they're like, "Oh my God, my CEO shouted me out on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, that feels amazing." You're not,
and you don't need your PR department to do that.
What was that?
You don't need your PR department to do that.
No, it's an easy thing. Okay, we're gonna move into another segment of the show. This is a repeatable segment, y'all, and this is called Lead It or Leave It. And so this is a speed round-ish. And I'm going to give you a term, and you're going to say, lead it if you like it, leave it if you don't. So these are kind of fun. Right, ready?
Is there a prize at the end?
Here, your prize is you're sitting here with me.
Fine. Good. I'll take it. Okay.
And when I see you, we'll have tequila and we'll celebrate some more.
Thank you. I love it.
Okay, so you ready?
Yes.
First, this is fast answers, gut reactions. First one is 4-day work weeks.
Lead it.
Lead it. I agree. Okay. No meeting Fridays.
Lead it. Exclamation
No.
point.
Yes. Okay. Fractional leadership.
Lead it.
Love it. Okay. Mandatory return to office.
Leave it.
100% with you on that one.
I don't know that I can ever go back to an office, but I think it's happening for all the wrong reasons.
I agree. I think it is about power. I think it is
Control.
Not helping people manage their lives in a way that could really empower them. And when you give people autonomy, they will perform. And that is taking away a whole lot of autonomy. So don't love that. Okay, here's one. I'm not going to say how I feel about this, but I'd like your interpretation.
I'm sure.
We're a family culture.
Leave it.
Yes. Tell us why. Tell us why.
Because it's BS. I'm trying not to cuss because
we're on. Curse.
It's bullshit.
You can curse.
It's bullshit. You would not hesitate to fire me tomorrow for a misstep, for a reduction in cost, for whatever it is. Family is unconditional love that you don't get to choose. You get to choose who you go to work for. They get to choose you. It is absolutely not a family. Can you build a culture? 100%. Are these people who you love and want to be with and spend time with? Absolutely. But as soon as you tell me that we are a family, I'm going to put my hands up and push myself away from the table.
So I'm going to tell you a story. At IBM, we had a leader who told his direct reports, he's like, we're a family here. We treat each other like a family. And this was very mob intended kind of tone. And what that meant to him was we had to hire his kid. And we were like, oh.
Yeah.
And the worst part was the kid was a slacker. So it was really not great. Okay. One more. Progress over polish.
Oh, lead it. Progress. But I'm just going to tell you that I have done a lot of work. I have had 2 executive coaches. I've had a life coach. I've had a therapist. I've led large teams and small teams. This is years in the making. And I'm really sorry about being the grammar queen because that needs to be polished, but everything else is progress.
Yeah, but I think that's true. I think there's so many people that struggle with it's got to be perfect. It's got to I know so many people that I've coached that are like, I just need my website to be perfect before I listen. Guys, you're not getting business from your website. All they're doing is validating that you're a real person and you exist. That's for all the website people out there, I'm sorry. But like, it's good to have a wonderful brand and gorgeous and all the things, but you can make that. And I've changed my website many times. I've changed my LinkedIn profile many times. This is progress.
Progress.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay. Progress. By the way, I don't have a website.
See, there you go.
I can't even get it together to do it because it doesn't, to your point, that's progress for me. Right.
Well, and guys, people are hiring Ricki just fine. Don't worry about it. It's not necessary. It's good. It's ideal that you have one just to validate that you're human, but she comes in on recommendations and that works just fine.
Yeah.
So let's shout out some of our lovely audience members. Kimberly Arnold, Carrie Barra, Carol Jean Whittington, Iris Crawford. I saw Brent, Nadine Levine, Jim Perona, Ashley Beck Cuellar. There's Brent Levin, Melissa Glick. I think that's Joshua Lee,
I saw
Anyway,
Kale Shaw in there.
yes, Kale Shaw. Thank you guys all for being here. It is so nice to have you in our company as we're doing this. Okay, so what are you working on right now?
Oh, well, I did a lot this weekend, and I didn't tell you in our preamble,
Oh boy.
in our prep before this, but I talked about this when I was on your podcast, but it is still in the works. I am launching an app in the next few weeks, which I'm very excited about. We did all the testing last week. It's going onto the Apple Store and the Google or Android Store next week, as soon as all the little bugs are fixed. And I am so delighted, and I promise I will announce it when it goes out. It's going to be something that you will all be shocked that I am actually behind. But it's going to be really cool, and I'm very excited, and it's a labor of love, and it's in honor of my dear friend Linda Rosas's mom passing 3 years ago. So we're pretty excited about it.
You want to tell anybody what it is, or you want to just
I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait because there's a long backstory behind it, but
Yes.
Suffice to say, it is a religious prayer app. And I'll leave it at that. I promise I will make.
We don't get religious on these shows, but just a little known fun fact about Ricki and Lindsay is we share the same Hebrew name. We have never met anyone with our same Hebrew name, but we have the same one. Super weird and really funny when we figured that out for the first time.
Yeah, and funny for our parents too, actually.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so funny. So, okay, so who are your ideal clients?
So my ideal, hold on, can I go back and answer, Finn? I have one more thing to share. It's really important.
Take it.
So I had this huge epiphany a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really excited that I am going to be hosting with Kale Shaw a new LinkedIn Live podcast that's going to be something in the vein of you can't do this alone, nor should you. I'm not going to reveal the name quite yet, but our first episode is going to be about connecting, networking, and building relationships. And I could not be more excited. I am beyond delighted to do something live because I know that when people can interact and see us and hear us, much like what you're doing with this leadership lounge, it's a whole different environment. So I am super stoked about it. Our goal is to launch on 11/11. So stay tuned.
Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Well, congrats to both of you. That's going to be super fun. And, one thing I'd say about all three of us is we are a lot of fun. And, you can always learn when you're having a good time. And so there's so much that you guys are going to share. It's going to be a blast. I'm breaking in your LinkedIn, your LinkedIn Live and your live chops right now. Okay, so let's go back to talk about who your ideal clients are.
Yeah. So leaders, the C-suite, and founders of those mid-sized companies, 15 to 50 million, who admittedly cannot get out of their own way. And really what I mean by that is they've built a company, they've been in business 5, 10, 15 years, and they keep trying to grow it. But they keep trying to grow it organically the way they've grown it for the last 5, 10, 15 years. And in order to up level, what they need is strategic growth. So I need leaders who are self-aware.
Yes.
Who are willing, right, to take the leap and jump in and have a little bit of blind enthusiasm. Because I always say, what got you here won't get you there.
So true. Yeah. And I liken this to the people that are wise enough to know they need a coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't understand why in the corporate world having a coach has a negative connotation, or it means like you're not good enough at something. And that was kind of an old school way of thought that kind of circulated around corporate America. And I think we're kind of shaking it off. But I think there's still some kind of school of thought that people are not super inspired by having coaches. And you and I both know that when you hire coaches, and you hire different coaches at different points in your career and different points in your life to pull out different things.
Right.
And I think for you and these clients that you're working with, you become their coach. You become that sage, that person that's going to hold up the mirror and say, is this what you really meant? Is this
Right.
really how you wanted to inspire your people? Or I don't know if you really meant to do it that way. Let me offer an alternative.
Yeah.
And I think that's so smart of them to hire somebody like you to help them really kind of see through the nonsense.
Right.
Because, we all kind of get stuck where you can't see what it is you're in the middle of. And that's why I think you're so great for them. And
Yeah.
you've talked to so many other leaders. So can you just share a little story maybe about somebody that you did really good work with?
I can. And I want to go back to something you said first, which
Yeah.
is I don't serve myself up as a coach.
Mm-mm.
Maybe for all the reasons that you just talked about. I don't know,
Mhm.
but I don't serve myself up as a coach, because why I get hired is because either they've heard me talk on a podcast, they've seen my posts.
Yep.
But the reality is I'm 100% referral based. I've
Yep.
not done any lead gen. I don't have a funnel. I don't do any sales per se, right? But they hire me because somebody else has worked with me and has had a good experience. And what I mentioned before, and then I promise I'll tell the story.
Okay.
What I mentioned before is that I have really long-term clients, right? They hire me to come in and show them where the gaps exist, to do a growth strategy workshop or a brand alignment workshop. And then once we identify those gaps, we create the strategic initiatives, we define what those actions are under those initiatives, then they keep me on. And they keep me on and they keep me on. And we roll out the initiatives, we implement, the actions start to take shape. We evaluate them every quarter. And we do a lot of heavy lifting in year 1 and year 2. There is no silver bullet, people, right? This all takes time. It's faster in these mid-sized companies, but it still takes time. And then ultimately they end up hiring me to come in and coach them. Yes. So you're 100% right. Like my in is different and it's not overt coaching, but at the end of the day, it's what I end up doing.
Strategy is your sweet spot, but you get there through coaching and through sharing some of the hard truths. And, you do it with a lot of love, but they get the point, and that's important. So tell your story.
So my story is this, and I think it's a good one. So one of the things, right, I'm going to talk about networking because it is the foundation for everything I've done. In my 30-year career, I've submitted one resume to one job that I got. So my network is very large. When I decided to start out on my own, I had a very good friend who told me to stop being afraid and just do it. I had clients who were vendors once upon a time, and I used to give them like all of my built environments work. And when I went to the job that, I didn't love so much, they'd be asking me here and there for business advice. And I was learning so much, I could just pass it on. And ultimately, when I started my own company, I realized that while I've been giving away advice, and I was honored to do it because I love them and respect them, and they'd taken such good care of me for almost 15 years that I felt like I needed to take care of them, and I wanted to take care of them. I remember calling the CEO and saying, here's all the questions you've asked me over the last 18 months or the last year. And it sounds to me like we probably need to do a growth strategy workshop. So why don't you and your partner, I split my time between Seattle and Tucson. Why don't you and your partner fly out to Tucson? It's cold where you are. And we'll spend a couple days together. Remember that dinner I talked about? It's really important. We'll go to dinner. You can fill out the intake form. We'll talk about it at dinner over tequila, always. And then the next day we'll do a 4 to 6 hour growth workshop, and that will be our marching orders for the next year, because they had a very robust goal to grow by like I don't remember what it was at this point, and I'm not going to reveal their numbers, but they had a robust goal to grow, and we needed to like start to unpack what were all the parts and pieces, peel away the layers of the onion that were keeping them from moving forward. So that's one of my biggest success stories because I still work with them today. Mm-hmm. So the first year we did all the growth strategy implementation. The second year we tweaked and adjusted and monitored. And now we're into our third year. I just completed stakeholder interviews with their leadership team. And oh my God, the difference from year 1 to year 3 is, I'm shocked. Like,
you have to take them back to that initial, first.
Right.
And just show them how far that they've come.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to appreciate the growth.
I agree. In fact, I left them a voice memo on Friday night, both of them. Like I completed the interviews. They are spectacular. This leadership team has grown far and wide and deep. Like they are phenomenal. And each and every one of them said, I can't believe it's been 3 years and we are in such a good spot. It's a different organization.
So cool.
And let me be clear. These leaders tell me, right, that the two owners who I work with, they tell me they appreciate me all the time, but until you hear it from the people who they're impacting, does it really ring true? So all I will say is this, again, not a silver bullet, but putting in the time and the effort and the energy and really building those relationships and those connections are really what make for the staying power and the ability to see that the work that you do as a leader actually makes a difference.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, so time for some words of wisdom from you. So what are some words of wisdom for leaders that are out there right now that are trying to level up their game? What would you tell them to do?
So I think the first thing is that we've been talking about is look in the mirror, right? I think it's hard for leaders to admit that they don't know how to move forward from here. And those are my people. You are my people.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is stay curious. I think it's a really important value to always have. Look, I know a lot. I've been around for a while. You've been around for a while. We've had a lot of clients. We've had really interesting career moves. I've traveled extensively. I know a lot about tequila, but I'm still curious. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you're about. I want to know how that works. I want to know what makes a difference. I want to know what works and what doesn't work. It's really, really important.
I agree.
I think my third thing for leaders is build relationships, not employees, not clients, not vendors. Build relationships.
Such good advice.
Yeah. And then my fourth, it's just really important. Otherwise, you're just a transactional leader and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. You want a mediocre workforce? That's how you get it.
That's how you get it. Yeah.
And what are some words of wisdom for the everyday Jane or everyday Joe who is just trying to make it through and figure out their true north or figure out how they get to that next level?
Look up. Just look up. Just look away.
Yeah.
Be open to engagement. Put your phone away. Opportunity will follow.
That's good. That's good. All right. So I'm going to see if I can do this right. How can people find you?
Well, I don't have a website.
There's a QR code.
There's a QR code. I love it. So I'm on LinkedIn, Ricki Pasinelli. I'm on Instagram at Ricki Pasinelli. I don't do much posting about work there, but I do have a good time on Instagram. And I have a new Substack called Confessions of a Serial Quitter, which is hilarious.
Love it. Love it. And we can spend some more time talking about quitting and what that
Yeah.
all means, but check her
Yeah.
out on her Substack. That is her QR code that will take you to book some time with Ricki. But please connect with her on LinkedIn. And guys, if you have been enjoying this show today, which I hope you have, I really hope that you'll come back for our next one with Nadine Levine, who I know was on earlier. I hope she's still here. She'll be on the 23rd. These will always be on Thursdays at 1 p.m., streaming on Insta, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And always looking for new guests. Right now, we're booked into March, but these air weekly. So I've got a nice long calendar ahead. So if you are interested in being on the show and being featured in the Leadership Lounge, you just got to come my way, and let's have a little chitty chat. And guys, I just want to say thank you for joining me on the Leadership Lounge. And this is where stories meet strategy. And until next time, go lead with heart. Thanks for listening, everybody.